Take a second and think about your favourite kids' movie of all time. Odds on it's one you saw when you were pretty young, one that captured your imagination at the time. Of course, as we moved into adulthood, the themes and ideas that pervaded these scripts become more obvious. The importance of friendship and purpose in Toy Story, self-acceptance in The Incredibles, the power of persistence in Kung Fu Panda, or maybe had a little sexual awakening given how hot Kim Possible was.
Call me, beat me if you wanna reach me.
More seriously, oftentimes these films are designed to be enjoyed by younger audiences, but more importantly, approved by their parents for their overarching positive message. However, I want to focus on a kids' movie that was definitely not actually made for kids. Where the Wild Things Are came out in 2009, which was when I was in a pretty ideal age bracket. Not so young the monsters were too scary, but also not so old that I was too cool to go see a kids' movie. Instead, it had some problems in production. It ran way over budget, they struggled to market it, and it barely broke even despite the massive IP it was based on. So why do I think this is the best kids movie I've ever seen, despite having not watched it until my mid-20s? To put it simply, it's not made for kids. Instead, it's designed to remind us as adults of the final moments of childhood before the world became much more real. Max, the little boy central to the story, starts in his real world. However, the world as he knows it is crumbling. His dad is no longer around, his mum is starting to date other men, and his sister is too old to come and play with him in his igloo. Max tells his mum the following story, an insight into how he views his future, an adulthood where second chances don't come quite as easily.
Why are you crying? Aren't those just your baby teeth? And he said, no, those are my grown-up teeth. And the vampires knew that he couldn't be a vampire anymore, so they left him.
The first signs of growing up start creeping in here. His sister and her friends briefly join in on a snowball fight, and in the process destroy Max's igloo. Max's initial glee at the playtime with the music romping turns immediately to devastation, and he has a massive tantrum and destroys a homemade heart he once made for his sister. Every emotion is just so magnified, and that continues as Max eventually runs away from home to the mythical land with all the wild things, who again are magnified and huge in proportion to Max. Dan Jolin, a critic for Empire Online at the time, wrote this about the wild things. It doesn't take Freud to spot that, to some extent, they each represent aspects of Max's personality. Carol is Max's creative passion. KW, of course, is Max's love for his mother and sister, the people who, given his absent father, make his world and who he fears will abandon him. Judith is his spitefulness, Ira his calm side, Alexander his insecurity, Douglas his reason, and the unnamed bull his sadness. It's a take that makes sense. To me, though, Carol is literally a representation of Max himself. Carol is struggling with change, constantly, rampantly destructive, especially as KW, who I agree represent his mother and especially his sister, is moving on and getting new friends. In this case, Bob and Terry, who neither Max nor Carol can understand, quite literally. The other wild things can also represent the people Max may already know, those he will meet as he continues to age, and even people he may potentially become. They appear as only half-baked emotionally, and if Max is unable to mature, he could be left permanently resentful like Judith, or always lonely like the bull. The wild things themselves are loud and initially threaten to eat Max. Max believes he must rule over them, perhaps representative of his emotions. In the context of the story, without winning this argument, he may be eaten.
But what if they have some sort of material that recrackers can't get through?
Then I have a double recracker which can get through anything in this whole universe, and that's the end, and there's nothing more powerful after that ever, period.
Of course, now as adults, we can see the humour and ridiculousness behind this verbal duel, despite the fact that we probably partook in similar when we were that age. The Wild Things comment this:
I like it better when we have a king.
This shows Max's true feelings. While even though he's growing up and becoming the king of himself, he wants to remain reliant on his mother to guide him through the world, given her comfort and familiarity. The desert in the movie is used relatively sparingly, but does lead to some gorgeous cinematography. I think here it indicates a transference from the imagined to the real. In this case, Max and Carol discuss mortality and how the son is one day going to die, something Max recently learned in school. The Wild Things all sleep in a giant pile in the beginning, reminiscent of the igloo, a source of comfort and safety. And further, when they create their new home, it too is dome-shaped. The love is furthered with the drawn-on heart and imprint, something left behind. However, as the movie develops, reality starts to come crashing down on Max, and he can no longer control the wild things.
How do I make everyone okay?
The plight of adulthood is revealed here in the answer.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of that.
It may feel like everyone knows the answers, but in reality, we're all just trying to get along as best we can. Max even gets to see his own relationship with his sister play out in front of him, represented by KW and Carol. His understanding of everyone grows, but the Wild Things eventually realise he is not the king. Max cannot control the world, or others, despite how much he might want to. He learns that
I'm Max.
Well, that's not very much, is it?
as a child, you feel like your parents and your family and yourself are the most important people in the world. And becoming an adult is so important and such a great thing. You have free will, ability to do what you want. But of course, as we grow up, we learn that we're all just people in a big, wide world. In the grand scheme of things, everyone is relatively unimportant. Max crosses the desert again, heading back to this symbolic reality. Carroll has destroyed his grand artistic creation, a design of a made-up world where everyone is happy. Max's imagination and world, at least as it once was, is gone forever. He's growing up. Max, though, leaves a heart, the motif recurring. He knows now that his feelings of anger and hurt and frustration will pass. In the beginning, the now to Max feels almost infinite and never-ending, but he's discovered that his emotions are temporary. Unlike in other kids' movies, we don't get a big resolution discussion between Max and Carol. Instead, Max sails back to reality, their relationship left undiscussed. An acceptance has set in. He knows he can only move forwards, not backwards now, and together with all the wild things, they howl together one final time as he leaves his childhood behind. After Max arrives home, we see his mother obviously relieved, but importantly, she eventually falls asleep as Max eats his dinner. We know that she can finally rest as Max is ready to start leading his own life, becoming king of himself. While Where the Wild Things Are has an overall solemn tone, one not often seen in kids' movies, it's less of a surprise given Spike Jonze's other work. Nevertheless, the feelings of nostalgia for a childhood long gone comes in waves for a viewer, and it definitely feels targeted to a demographic much older than the concept would indicate. If you haven't checked it out, I would highly recommend it. One final comment before I go. If anyone can work out what the dog represents, I'd be keen to know. Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.